Welcome to Love in Life, a guide to a positive mindset. My aim is to show you that the key to a happier and more positive mind is to love the life you have. We will look at tips and tools you can use to improve your mindset, and the best thing is, we'll all be on this journey together. Welcome back to Love in Life. Now, as you know, my weekly aim is to bring a little bit of positivity to you, or to show you how to, or to encourage you to reframe a situation that isn't so positive. The subject I want to talk to you about today is intuition. And there's a reason why I want to talk to you about intuition today. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to a mind, body and spirit fair. If you've never been to one of these, I would highly recommend that you do so. I always have such a lovely time, and I always learn new things when I go to these events. And even if you're not particularly spiritual, you might be starting your journey, sort of discovering your more spiritual side, or you might not be spiritual at all. But it's always a lovely place to, even if you just went for gifts, to be honest with you, there's always some lovely stalls, lovely people selling crystals and handmade gifts, with crystals in. And on that note, I'd love to give a shout out to my lovely listener, Shannon, who has got her own business where she makes and sells jewellery, handmade jewellery with crystals in, and they're absolutely lovely. Her website is Homemade Harmony, and she's got some lovely things on there, so take a look. But there's so much. I'd always find that when I go to these events, the atmosphere is just so lovely, and I always come away knowing more about myself than when I went, and I love that. Anyway, the one I went to a couple of weeks ago, I went with my sister, and I had a reading. Well, I actually had my aura read, something I've never done before, and something I was a little bit sceptical about. But yeah, I had my aura read. Like any type of reading that you have, whether it's a tarot reading, a psychic reading, an aura reading, I always find, and the last, I'm going to say 3 readings that I've had, I always find that any doubts I've got in my head, or anything I seem to be slowing myself down on because I'm wondering if it's the right thing to do, if I'm procrastinating, I always come away from these readings and I always think, for fuck's sake, why didn't I just listen to my intuition? And because they always confirm things I already know, or things I think I already know, if that makes sense. It's really nice because it confirms to me that what I was thinking I knew, I actually do know. But it does say to me that, listen, you fucking know what you're doing. You know what you want to do. You know how to achieve it. Now just get on with it and do it. And that's quite a hard thing to do when, and I'm sure like many people who are listening, I suffer from self-doubt massively. As you know, as I've said many times before, I doubt if I'm on the right path. Even though part of me knows I'm on the right path, there's always that little niggle, and I wish I didn't have it, but I do. But anyway, yeah, that, trusting your intuition is easier said than done when you suffer from self-doubt and when you suffer from imposter syndrome, when you compare yourself to other people, and when you think, there's so many people out there doing it already. Like, how am I going to make an impact in this world when there's so many people who are already doing that? And I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels like that. I'm sure a lot of you listening feel exactly the same. And it's not just, big life-changing decisions when we need to use our intuition. Like, we use our intuition multiple times, on mundane daily, day-to-day things. So what is intuition? Oxford Dictionary says that intuition is the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. So basically, you just know. You don't need to explain it. You probably can't explain it. Sometimes this comes up as a gut feeling, like you just know it without thinking without questioning if something is right or wrong. You just know. It's usually not logical and usually can't be explained. In my opinion, there are two types of intuition. So you've got the first type of intuition, in my opinion, is something that is learned over time. So something that is learned over experiencing similar situations in the past. So some examples of this. In super simple terms, something like just knowing if a drink, for example, is hot or cold. So you come down and see a cup with coffee in it. And your intuition, based on past experiences, would tell you that usually if there is a drink in a cup, in a mug, then it would be hot. Obviously, if there's steam coming off of it, there's definitely another indication. But you have learnt those things over time, over past experiences. And it becomes intuition when you don't even have to think about it. So it sounds like I'm putting a lot of thought into that by analysing it's in a mug, it's got steam coming off of it, but you don't even need to look at those things when your intuition just tells you. Does that make sense? Another super simple explanation of that is just knowing what the weather is like outside. You know, even if it's winter, like I'm looking outside at the moment, it's winter, it's sunny, but because it's winter, I know it's going to be cold. And it's one of those things you don't really need to put a lot of thought into it because you just know. You just know from, learning through life that winter means even though the sun is out, it's still going to be cold out. Then you've got examples that are a bit more personal. So, for example, your partner, sometimes you just know if your partner has got something on their mind. And you know this because of situations that have arisen in the past, and you learn to pick up on the signs that even your partner doesn't realise they're giving off. And that becomes an intuition. So like even with Craig and I, sometimes I know if he's got something on his mind, even if I ask him and he says no, even if he thinks he doesn't have something on his mind, it will usually come out a few days later that he in fact did have something on his mind, something that he was worried about, whether it's money or work or something. We're pretty good at picking up on things that have happened in the past, and we very, very quickly learn from these, so as it does become intuition. And the reason why we do this is to protect us. We learn these things and we store these things, and especially when they happen over and over again, we store it so as we can quickly look back on that information without even realising it and make a snap decision using our intuition. And it saves us time and it protects us. It protects us from getting hurt. It protects us from looking silly. It protects us from being laughed at, So that type of intuition, whilst intuition is usually not logical, like if you break that down, you can make that logical. You can explain that you've learnt things over the past and you've learnt it so much that sometimes you can't explain it. But if you were to break it down that much, then you can explain it. And then the other type of intuition, I think, is the type where you tune in to your higher self, the type when, it's a brand new situation and you have got nothing to compare it to. And sometimes this will come out as a gut instinct. And I guess examples of this, things like when you meet somebody for the very first time, before you've even had chance to analyze them, you just have a hunch, you have a gut feeling. I've also used this type of intuition when I go to things like the mind, body and spirit fairs, when I've decided I want to have a reading, but there's like 25 different people to choose from. And sometimes I'll walk round and round and round like 3 or 4 times, just getting a feeling of people. Like, obviously I don't talk, they're already doing readings with other people, so I'm not talking to them, but I'm just walking around and seeing how I feel when I walk past, and sort of asking my inner self, my higher self, who I feel more comfortable walking past. Like, who do you get a vibe from? When we've got big changes in life to make, so if you're having a change of career, a bit like what I did really. I've obviously gone from one career to another, and that's not an easy decision to make, especially when you've been in one career for like 8 years, or a long time, whatever career you've got. If you've been in a career for a long time and it just doesn't feel right anymore, and you have to use your intuition to what does feel right. And when you do come to making a decision, then you will have like an intuitive feeling as to whether something feels right or not. You've got no way of knowing whether it is right or not. You just have to trust your intuitive feelings. When it comes to making a big purchase, such as a car or a house, again, you have no way of knowing whether this, is whatever big investment you're making, you have no way of knowing whether this is going to be the right investment for you or not. So you have to, again, trust your gut feeling, the vibe you get from something. For example, if you are looking at different houses, then you'll quite often find yourself asking your higher self how you truly feel about it, and like really connecting with your spiritual self. So the side of you that connects with the universe or God or higher power, whatever you turn to when it comes to making big life-changing decisions. Sometimes we might find ourselves not trusting our intuition, or procrastinating, or talking ourselves out of something, even though our intuition has spoken to us. So what are the things that get in the way of our intuition? So first of all, overthinking. Like, if you try and overthink something, if you try and analyze every situation, if you try and use your logical brain to make sense of every situation, then your intuition has absolutely no room, because your intuition has to make a quick decision, and it's based on feelings and emotions rather than thinking. If you are approval seeking, which is something that I quite often do, to be honest, like I think, well, what would so and so think about that? Or I quite often let what I think other people are going to think about me, or society is going to think, get in the way of me making decisions or being a certain way. And that's just silly, isn't it? If you've got past trauma or past experiences. Hello, Hugo. Aww. Hugo wants a cuddle. Hello, mate. If you've got past experiences, bad experiences, then obviously this is going to stop you allowing your intuition to make a decision, because naturally we want to protect ourselves and we don't want to be in the same position as we have been in the past. So if you have been upset by somebody, if you've been abused by somebody, if you've been neglected by somebody, then these things, we find it hard to let go of these things, obviously, because we don't want it to happen again. And that quite often gets in the way of going with our gut instinct. Our limiting beliefs often get in the way of our intuition. I can think of only recently when I first posted about my coaching packages, or when I posted about my website, and that I wanted to do it for such a long time, but my limiting beliefs were getting in the way. My inner voice that tells me I'm not good enough yet, I haven't got enough experience yet, it stops you going with your intuition. Like that intuition that I initially had to tell everybody what I have to offer was completely stepped over by my limiting beliefs that delayed me putting those things out there. If you're into Reiki, energy, crystals, you will probably know that if your third eye chakra is blocked, then you won't be able to trust your intuition as well. So that's something to bear in mind as well. So we've looked at intuition. We've looked at what gets in the way of intuition. So how do we learn to trust our intuition? And this is something that if you do struggle to trust your intuition, this isn't necessarily something that is going to change overnight, but it's definitely something that we can all work on. I truly believe that we can all work on that. So it's going to build up over time. And the kind of things that you need to be doing, we need to be doing, is recognizing signs that we've made the right choices in the past. So go back and think of a time when you have used your intuition, or if you weren't sure what to do and you were happy with your choice. So, for example, if in the past you've been lucky enough to have been offered 2 jobs at one time, you obviously had to make a decision on which job to take. So if you feel that you made the right decision, then go back and applaud yourself for making that decision. Recognize that you have got the ability to trust your intuition, and look for evidence on how this has served you in the past. Even if you made a decision and it wasn't necessarily the right one for you at the time, sometimes you'll be able to look back and think, do you know what? I had a gut feeling that I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have made that choice. And I should have listened to that voice. I should have listened to that intuition. So your intuition was still there. Whether you listened to it or not, it was still there. So, if you can think of a time when your intuition was telling you something different to what you actually did, then that's a good thing, because your intuition was there. You might not have trusted it, but at least you know it's there, and that might give you faith to trust it next time round. Sometimes it helps to just pause and be in the moment. So rather than, when you're trying to make a decision on something, rather than analysing all the evidence or thinking of all the possible outcomes, just stop and close your eyes, breathe, and ask yourself the question, what is the right thing to do? And I think sometimes you surprise yourself. You have got the answer deep inside, and that is your intuition. But sometimes you have to make time to listen to it, to drown out everything else and really tune into it. If you feel that your intuition does let you down, or if you don't feel that you have many sort of gut instincts or hunches, then maybe, like I said, maybe your third eye chakra is blocked. And there's so many really easy ways that we can unblock our chakras. And the easiest way, in my opinion, is to do a guided meditation. And there are hundreds of them on YouTube. And actually, this past week, I've been listening to the same one, the same guided meditation over and over again, every day this week. And it's like a 10-minute chakra unblocking meditation. So it goes through each chakra and tells you to visualize it, the areas in different colors. And it's so simple, but it works. I think it does anyway. What's the harm in giving it a go? So you might be wondering what was so significant in my aura reading that made me want to talk about this today. So I'm not going to explain aura reading because that would imply that I understand it, and I don't. But I totally have faith in it and trust it. And because, everything that came up for me it definitely resonated with me. And, like if you've ever had a reading and you hear things that you can resonate with, or they tell you things that there's no way of them knowing, then it just gives you faith that it's real. It's not a scam. Whereas if you don't hear anything that resonates with you, then you might question whether to believe it or not. So, the fact that I was able to resonate with a lot of it did give me faith in it. So anyway, the right side of my aura, which basically is the side of the aura that represents your masculine energy, and also the vibrational frequency that most that I'm putting out to people, basically. And this was intense red. Like most of the things were orange on my aura. I'll post the picture actually on my Instagram if you really want to see it. It's a weird picture, but it's quite funny. Look, I'm gazing into the distance with an orange ring around me. But anyway, the right side of my aura was intense red. And it says, this colour could mean one of several things. You may be experiencing a period of stress or imbalance, or have an eventful, exciting, action-packed schedule that barely leaves you enough time to breathe, let alone sleep. And I'll be honest with you, it's probably a little bit of both. So as you know, it's been no secret that I have found January really, really tough. It's been one thing after another, and I really feel that my body has been really telling me to slow down. And the reason why it's probably been telling me to slow down is because I don't know how to walk. I only know how to run. I wish this was true in the physical sense. It's not, but I mean metaphorically. When I have an idea, I take it and I run. And I put so much energy into anything. And this goes with big things and little things as well. So the rest of it says, everybody is wondering where you get all your energy and creativity from. You don't walk, you fly. You probably have a tendency to want to do everything all at once because you seem to be in a great big hurry and not wanting to spend any time quietly alone or pleasantly idle. And this is so true. Like I quite often, I think I might have said this in the past, but I feel guilty for sitting down and doing nothing. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? How ridiculous is that? Especially when I know how important it is to have time alone, and I know how important it is for self-care. I talk to you about it all the time. Like I've said, I know how important it is, but doing it is another thing. I'm quite happy to advise other people, but I'm not very good at listening to my own advice. Anyway, so I really feel that January, with there being one illness after another, or an illness into toothache and all the other emotional things that were happening, I truly believe that was either my body's way or the universe's way of telling me to slow the fuck down. Because as soon as I delivered my last wedding cake, I went straight in to trying to get new clients and, for my coaching business, and wasn't giving myself the time I deserved in between to just take it all in and to transition. So that is something that has really come out of this. Not only I was starting to come to the realization anyway at the end of the month, as I think I might have said on my podcast last week, but then I obviously had this aura reading which just confirmed it. But just spend time just being a little bit slower for once. Spend time, the reason why I was ready to get rid of my cake business mainly, like in the beginning, was because I wanted to spend more time with my family and spend more time caring for the people that I'm able to care for. So why am I very, very quickly trying to build up my next business before I've had time to enjoy the things I can enjoy whilst I'm in this transition phase? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was quite eye-opening for me. And it was like I said, it was something I already knew it. So that was confirmation to me. Like, just trust your intuition. I was already questioning right at the beginning of the year, like, have I caught this because is my body trying to slow me down? Oh, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Tried to push myself through, then something else happened. And it was like, I should have trusted myself in the first place rather than trying to push myself through anything. So if you're anything like that, then I feel you. And I really hope that you learn to trust your intuition as well. If you feel like something is happening because your body is telling you to slow down, the universe is telling you to slow down, then slow down. Trust your intuition. That's definitely something. Like, this has been 3 or 4 readings that I've had now where I've thought, do you know what? I already knew that. That is confirmation to me to trust my instinct more, allowing myself to listen to myself and to trust myself. So yeah, hopefully I will learn to use my intuition more and to trust my intuition more. There was loads more interesting things that came out of my reading. So if you're interested in hearing what else it said, then head over to my Instagram. I'm going to put a post on today. Lots of other things came up where I should have just trusted my intuition. So yeah, have a look if you're interested. If you would like to know how we can work together, please do head to the show notes where you'll find my usual link with everything there is to know about me. My website, which is live, is lisadavage.co.uk. So yeah, that's about it for this week. Next week, I'm going to be answering some questions. So if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about in the spiritual sense, anything to do with law of attraction, anything to do with manifesting or crystals or any of the universal laws, or just about positive mindset in general, please do send me your questions. Obviously, you can do this on Instagram. You can send me a message. So until then, have a great week and get those questions over to me in the next few days. That would be amazing, because I'm going to be recording in the next couple of days. So if you're listening to this when it goes live, please do send me a question straight away. If you're listening to this later, at a later date, then still feel free to send me your questions anyway, because I will always answer them. So that's it from me this week. I hope you have a great week and I'll speak to you next week. Lots of love, everyone. Bye.